Hi friends, welcome to Practice with Kris. I'm Kris, and this is my follow-up video practice that I mentioned in, I guess, the first vlog episode. I'm noticing that I'm a little uncomfortable, I think, maybe not with the term, but just this idea that I'm wanting to start sharing um, beyond just these practices on this channel. So if that's something that you're curious about and you want to check out that video, cool. And if not, I just want to, again, emphasize that however you're showing up here and whatever it is that you're feeling and needing, I really want to empower you to make the choices that are going to serve you best. And so if you're just so eager to get on your mat and you don't need more talk and you're not kind of interested in what I have to say about things, that's totally fine. And then, then I would just invite you to keep looking for these videos that are clearly labeled as practices versus vlogs or conversations. That said, the inspiration for today's practice is really, in some ways, it's been what I've been turning to and what I've been relying on to stay as resourced and to take care of myself during a time where I'm noticing a lot of heightened emotions, a lot of heaviness in my chest and my heart, and in my belly, like in my stomach. It just feels like a lot of constriction, and at the same time, it also feels like a lot of pressure. And also just a lot of like chaos and noise in my head. So all those things considered, for me, I've been turning to some of these kind of staple practices that are really aimed at kind of downshifting our nervous system out of that fight or flight pattern and into more of a rest and digest mode. And also just that has helped me to get out of my head when I feel like I am just kind of at my limit. So again, I think that it's important to name while we're doing these practices that it's not about, for me at least, it's not about escaping reality, but it's really about recognizing when, maybe digesting another news article or another study is no longer really serving me, and that's where the value of these more yin practices, this non-doing, or really just resting, giving the mind a break, giving the body a break, can be super valuable, especially if we are wanting to tackle these bigger issues and these bigger problems in the world. I think we really need to, I would advocate that we need to, but I know for myself and my own experience, I really need to stay as resourced and take care of myself as much as I can so that I can show up from that resourced, cared for place when I'm then turning to look at what the collective and community needs are. Okay, so all of that to invite you into this this practice. And it could be helpful to have a blanket or some sort of cushion or padding for under your knees if that's something that you like to have. And I'm also going to be using a block through this practice, but you can grab whatever if you don't have a block. For years, I used like dictionaries because I refused to buy yoga props, but not that there's anything wrong with yoga props. I just was resistant to it for a while. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of pause there and just invite you to grab some of those props and then meet me over on whatever you're practicing on. It could be a mat, it could be your carpet, a rug, the floor, and we can get started if you'd like. All right. All right, so the invitation is to start with your forehead resting on your block. And this is again where a modification could be, if you're sitting in a chair, you could just sit in a chair in front of a table or something and then put your forehead down on the table. And if it's feeling comfortable to do it in this yoga shape, that's often called child's pose, and I like to call it resting warrior. So we can begin there as you'd like, getting yourself set up in whatever shape feels like you could be here for a few minutes. And then inviting you to bring your forehead down again on something, some surface, the floor, a block, the table. And then deciding where you want your arms to be, whether they're out in front of you or out to the side. Maybe noticing if it feels good to have more of a bend in your elbows, letting the arms relax here. Or if you'd like a little more support, you could always straighten the elbows and find a little more kind of rootedness or grounding settling down through the fingertips. Wherever you are, just going to invite you to begin noticing the breath in the body. Sometimes it's helpful to take a few kind of deeper breaths as a way to bring that connection of your awareness onto the breath. And for some of us, it can feel really kind of comforting or soothing to breathe in and out of the nose. And for others, it might feel better to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. You could even let out a sigh or any other noise on the exhale. And then noticing here, when you're ready, kind of the support underneath your forehead. And then inviting you to gently move your head from side to side. The block for me is landing right kind of on my eyebrow line, as well as the forehead. And so this might feel like a little bit of a massage to any muscles that feel tighter up here. You can continue to breathe in a way that feels comfortable in your body. And you might even imagine here kind of softening the brain. So the front of the brain that's responsible for kind of these higher functioning brain activities. I call it like my figuring out part of my brain. Just kind of like inviting it to take a break here. So you're welcome to do that as long as you'd like. And when you're ready, if you'd like to continue moving with me, you're welcome on an inhale just to start to walk your hands back underneath the body if you're folded forward, and maybe sitting upright if you're in a chair. And wherever you are, just taking a moment here to pause in this new shape, this new upright seated position. And maybe bringing your hands to your belly. And letting the hands be a little bit of reference point. And you're welcome on the next inhale to invite your breath out into your hands. Maybe feeling the movement of your stomach press into the palms. And then as you exhale, the invitation is just to simply soften or let go of the breath. And maybe you notice that the belly kind of recedes away from your hands. And then you're welcome to take several more breaths just like this. On the inhale, watching or inviting the breath into your hands. And on the exhale, watching or softening the breath and the belly perhaps away from your hands. And as you continue at your own pace, Just name a couple other things. You could have the eyes closed or opened, whichever one feels supportive and kind of safe or comfortable for you here. But wherever you are, whatever you're doing with your eyes, I just welcome you to imagine you could just soften the muscles around the eyes, kind of soften the gaze. And over these last few breaths, if you're continuing to breathe kind of into the belly and letting go and softening in the belly on the exhales, also just inviting you to start letting the breath be your guide inwards. So what would it feel like to follow the inhale all the way in, kind of feeling or noticing what you feel corresponding movement of the belly into the hands. And then following the exhale all the way till it ends as you soften or let go of the breath in the belly. And then this last breath here, also just acknowledging that the priority that I'm inviting you into here is just to notice what you're feeling, even if that's different than my verbal cues or my suggestions or what might be happening. To meet yourself where you are and to notice what's alive and what's true for you in your body. And as we maybe let that breath continue to be the guide and the anchor point, you're welcome to continue with that breath throughout this practice as it feels helpful, right? Or to continue breathing in any way that does feel kind of comforting to you or comfortable to you. From here, on an inhale, inviting you to come up onto the knees, maybe reaching the arms out and up here. And as you exhale, lowering the arms down. And then you could continue with this arm movement up and down, whether you're sitting, coming up on the knees, or standing here. Really, you could even do what we just did, laying on your back. I call this kind of, when I'm on my back, like snow angeling the arms. And these last few rounds, what would it feel like to let the movement become like this expression of your breath? So that whole inhalation brings the arms up, and the whole exhalation brings the arms down. Noticing any sensations that you might be feeling in your arms and your shoulders. Perhaps feeling the temperature or the air on your skin. And this next time that you inhale and bring the arms up, you're welcome to leave them up. And a couple choices here as you kind of lengthen up through the side waist perhaps and reach up through the arms. It could feel grounding to keep your gaze softly at the floor. And it could also feel more uplifting to lift the gaze up towards your hands. So you could just kind of play around with these last couple breaths with what is feeling like a more supportive place for the eyes. So when I feel a little bit more anxious or a little bit more scattered and out there, I really like to use this visual cueing of looking down and grounding my gaze. And when I'm feeling like more heaviness or feeling when I get more into my where I call it like when I'm in a hole or I feel more depressed, sometimes it can be really helpful to kind of lift the gaze to encourage that lifting of the energy. So you're welcome to take one more breath here, just exploring. And if you're like, what if I feel both of those things, depressed and anxious, which I've been there too, maybe meeting in the middle and finding a soft gaze at the imaginary horizon. And then when you're ready on an exhale, you're welcome to release. I'm just coming back down to sit here for a moment. And then I welcome you to bring your hands back onto your belly if you'd like. And to take 3 more breaths, and just watching or inviting the breath to fill the stomach, the abdomen on the inhale, and to recede or soften away from the hands on the exhale. Just a reminder not to force the breath here. If you notice that there's like strain, what would it feel like to maybe kind of receive the breath, or just to be a little bit more gentle with that movement? Last breath here as you'd like. And then when you're ready, inviting you to come back up onto the hands and knees if you'd like, or standing even. And again, we can inhale, taking the arms out and up. This time, you could turn the right hand away from you and reach onto the wrist or the outside of kind of the pinky side of the hand with your left hand. And then as you inhale, you might imagine yourself kind of lengthening up through your torso, lengthening up through the arms. And on an exhale, you're welcome to slowly lean over towards the left. As you do that, notice if that right foot or leg or knee or hip wants to kind of lift up away from the floor. And what would it feel like to kind of intentionally ground down through that right side of the body? And again, here, your gaze could be down, forward, or lifted. And then here, for the next few breaths, or as long as you'd like to stay here, the invitation is to imagine you could breathe all the way into that right side of the stretch, out into the kind of the side waist, into the lungs here. You might even pair that awareness of the breath, kind of where you're feeling sensation of stretch, with the encouragement of the belly to remain kind of full on the inhales and soft on the exhales. And when you're ready, on an inhale, you're welcome to raise up, and exhale, releasing the arms down. Halfway through, it could feel good if you want to try lifting your shoulder blades up towards your ears and squeezing them back and down. And also meeting yourself here if this doesn't feel good at all. You could choose not to do it. Or you could just meet yourself, the part of your body that's like, oh, I'm really tight here and this doesn't feel good. To just meet it with a little bit of kind of more of that understanding, or even acceptance. Like, hey, I see you and your tightness. It's okay. When you're ready, on an inhale, you're welcome to take the arms back up. And again, turning this time the left hand away from you, and you could reach on to the wrist or the outside of the left hand with your right hand. And then that invitation again to kind of root down through the lower part of your body, whatever's in contact with the floor. And then on an exhale, what would it feel like to kind of expand and lift up out of that sense of groundedness, out of that rootedness? Again, choosing on this side where the head and where the gaze feels most supported or kind of sustainable to stay here. So another way to think about that is like maybe choosing the place that it doesn't feel like so much strain to stay in it. And then again, maybe starting to get curious about like the breath in the left side of the body. What would it feel like to breathe into the left waist? Maybe the left part of the low belly and low back. Maybe even inviting the breath into like the space between your rib cage. Or simply noticing where you're feeling sensation of stretch, and then maybe inviting the awareness or the attention to follow the guide of the breath wherever it's moving or feelable inside your body here. When you're ready, on an inhale, you're welcome to come out of this, exhaling, releasing the arms down, right? And then noticing again, if you want to do some of those shoulder rotations forward and maybe reversing the direction, just encouraging some movement up around the shoulders, the neck, and kind of what I refer to as like the heart space in the center of the chest area and the upper back. Just encouraging mobility in this part of the body. For me, I know that this is where, especially during this time, like I'm feeling a lot more tension and tightness and almost a feeling of stuckness in this part of my body. So just encouraging some movement and allowing whatever feels ready and willing to unstick here. Okay? Beautiful. And then if it feels okay to come back and sit, just inviting you to come and sit in a way that feels comfortable, and you can also do this standing. And then to check back in again, maybe hands to belly, taking a few breaths, and you could, again, explore what would it feel like to soften and expand the belly on the inhale, and to soften and let the belly recede in away from the hands. And as you tune in to the breath here, right, I also just want to remind you that this idea of meeting the many parts of ourselves where we are. So also, I've been doing a lot of this belly breathing and a lot of this encouraging to soften my belly. And to be totally honest, like my experience in my body, even as I do this, is like my belly is not soft. There's like a lot of tension and tightness there. And I'll also share from my experience, as you continue to breathe like this as you'd like, that after doing it for a couple days, I started feeling a shift, right? So there's a little bit of both and of like acknowledging the parts of yourself that like not expecting instant, immediate, like, oh, the invitation is to soften my belly and to get this full, relaxing diaphragmatic breath, that's going to immediately happen. For some of us, it may, but really letting go of that kind of expectation when it comes to these practices. And then the other side of that is tuning in and paying attention to what works for you. If you continue with this practice of like softening the belly and it just creates more anxiety and tension and uneasiness, and you've been doing it for days, and then there's enough data to kind of go, oh, for me, my me search, the research I've done on myself just shows that that's not helpful for me. So, yeah. Last full breath here as you'd like. And then from here, I'm just going to invite us, again, if you need to change the position of your legs, which I'm noticing I just want to stretch my legs out, and you can sit in whatever way you'd like. And for this next exercise, you're welcome to inhale and take the arms out to the side. And as you exhale, you can give yourself a hug. And no matter where your hands go, it doesn't matter if they're here. You're just kind of embracing the upper body. And I miss hugs. I'm really grateful that I don't live alone, and I have a small baby who really loves his mama. And so I'm really getting a lot of my needs for physical touch met right now. But I have a lot on my heart when I think of the people I love and the people in the world who don't have physical touch right now. So just offering, a couple moments here as we kind of open and stretch the upper back, maybe starting to feel a stretch in the upper arms as well. Just this invitation for us all to kind of embrace ourselves. Even the parts of ourselves that, again, are feeling more tender or have unmet needs. And without forcing this, maybe letting this shape, this embracing of yourself be a moment to kind of offer yourself a little bit of that, of the gentleness or affection for wherever you are here in this moment. And then when you're ready, on an inhale, you're welcome to stretch the arms out again. And then exhaling, maybe bringing the opposite elbow on top. So maybe remembering which one you did before. And if not, just you can always change if you realize you're in the same place and you want to try out the other side. And here the invitation is to explore, like, what does it feel like to bring your elbows up higher or lower? And kind of settling into the place where you're feeling maybe a little more openness through the back body and a little bit of a stretch through the upper arms. And then the invitation here is to begin breathing into the upper back. And I call this like the back of the heart space. So it could, just imagine, like, what would it feel like to breathe into the back of your lungs in the back body, or into that space where maybe you're feeling the stretch. I notice there's a lot of push and pull and a little restriction for myself here. So again, working with breathing in a way that doesn't feel forceful, about changing your experience, but also kind of acknowledging the way that the awareness and kind of where we place our awareness and how we're breathing, has the power to shift our inner experience. So as I feel this push and pull here, as I kind of remind myself to soften through my belly and to breathe into that tightness and into that tension, I do notice that it makes it a little bit easier to be with this stretch and to be with this shape. So just noticing what's true for you here. And when you're ready on an inhale, you're welcome to release the arms again, maybe reaching them out. Here you could experiment with turning the palms face up and notice what that feels like. And then on an exhale, you're welcome to bring the hands slowly back towards the heart in what we often call like a prayer position. And if that doesn't feel comfortable, you could also try just placing, one hand on top of each other in this space in the center of the chest. And then I'm just inviting you to, again, if you want to close down the eyes here, you're welcome to do that, or to softly gaze a few feet in front of you. And the invitation to notice the hands on the heart, maybe feeling like the warmth and the pressure of your hands here. And also perhaps getting curious about any shifts to kind of the quality of the breath in the body, noticing maybe the quality, any shifts to the mind, or any changes to kind of how it feels to be in your body. And also knowing it's okay if it doesn't feel like anything's shifted. Right? That doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you or that you did the practice wrong. Really, more than anything, the invitation here is, again, to meet yourself, to hold your heart here, and all the things that your heart is holding during this time, with a little bit of greater understanding or compassion for yourself. You could continue to leave your hands here if that feels calming. There can be an impact to our nervous system when we feel touch, and it doesn't always have to be someone else's touch. It can be our own touch. So noticing. If you'd like to stay here, you're welcome to also let the arms relax down into the lap. And again, you could either keep your palms open in more of like this receptivity and receiving gesture. Or if you recognize that, what would be more serving to you right now is not to keep letting more in. right? That if there's still feelings of overwhelm or anxiety, that it could be helpful to ground the palms by bringing them face down on your legs or in your lap, and noticing kind of the solidity of whatever your hands are on. So after choosing how you want to have your hands, at the heart space or in the lap, face open or down, I just invite us to do one little kind of breathing meditation to close out this practice. And the invitation is to begin for maybe the next, 5 or 7 breaths. On the inhale, imagine that you could breathe right into the center of your heart, right? Or right into the center of the chest, right? And as you exhale, you can imagine that you could breathe out of that same point. So this is like, it could be a visualization if you're a visual person, where you could imagine inhaling like the color of the breath into the center of the chest and then out. If you are more of a sensing or a feeling person, you could just notice what you're feeling here as you inhale, and imagine the breath moving directly into the center of the chest and exhaling out of the center of the chest. And if you're not really feeling or seeing anything, that's also why I use that language of imagine. You could just kind of invite or imagine, pretend even, that when you inhale, the center of your chest is like breathing in, and the center of your chest is breathing out. And you're welcome to continue doing that. And I'll add a layer here, if it resonates, that on the inhales, right, we're kind of balancing the energy in. So we could think of this as like inhaling, resourcing ourselves. Inhaling, bringing in what it is that we need to comfort and be with, and care for our own tender, holding hearts. And then on the exhales, you could imagine then breathing out from this connection, from this resourced place, back out into your community. Into that community could be as small as like, your family, or, the people living in the same house or building or city as you. Or it could be more expansive to include everyone on this planet. So it could be as specific or as wide as you would like. And I'm just gonna quiet down here and allow, however you're working with that practice, for the next minute. And the alternative, if this has become something that you're not resonating with, or it's creating more tension or anxiety in this part of your body, to maybe drop back down to the softening belly breath. So for one more minute, as you are finding, as you're connecting to either of these practices, and perhaps together for this last cycle of breath, if you'd like, inhaling, once again, connecting to how you're drawing in the breath and bringing in this care for yourself, and connecting to your resources. And on the next exhale, breathing back out from this resource, connected, cared for place, back out into your community. And then letting go of that meditation and that breath awareness. And taking this last moment or two, as you'd like, to check back in. And just doing a little scan, kind of an internal inventory of like, how does it feel to be me in this moment? What's the quality of my heart, my breath, my mind, and my body? If the eyes are closed down, you're welcome to slowly begin letting light back in. So as you return from this practice, and before maybe we, transition back to our lives, I just want to revisit this idea of taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of others, and acknowledging that this is going to look different for all of us. I know there have been times in my life where it hasn't felt as balanced of in and out as maybe we were doing with the practice and with that heart meditation. And that's okay. I think that giving ourselves, again, that permission to meet ourselves where we are. And at times we may be in a position of greater resource and internal and external, where we have more to offer and give to others. And at other times we may, depending on our experiences, be in our own survival mode and really need to just be caring for ourselves. And then, of course, there's the other side of that of being in a mode where, like I think about all of our, essential workers out there that are really needing to show up and center and care for others. I do have a hope and prayer that they are finding moments for themselves as well, because I've just found from my own experience that these things are so connected, because, personal and collective care, it's connected because we're connected, so this idea that we can just have one without the other, or vice versa. So, all right, thank you for taking this time again. Let me know how it went for you. If you have any feedback for me, I'm open to hearing that. You can add it in the comments, and you can also always just shoot me a private message or email. And if you resonated with what we did here and you'd like more of it, I do offer these practices and more movement. I think this was a little truncated and focused more on meditation, and I really wanted to make it accessible for, like, if we were just sitting and being able to do this practice. But I do offer more movement and such, and other ways, techniques, and tools to care for our nervous systems in these higher stress times. And I've been doing that through a community class on Sundays. It's live streamed via Zoom right now, so you're welcome to explore that and join us if that feels like something you're interested in. And regardless, until next time, be well, take care, namaste.